If you're a web developer, you have probably been bombarded by different AI tools that people are recommended, lists of like 20 different things that you need to learn, and it's just information overflow. But in today's video, I'm going to go over 3 AI tools that I would actually use as a day-to-day web developer and in my programming workflows. And you've probably heard of 2 of these, but I'm going to talk about some different things that you can do with these tools that I think are maybe less obvious. And then we're also going to talk about a tool that I didn't know about until I did quite a bit of further research on different tools that I feel like I need to stay on top of as a web developer. So the first one we're going to talk about today is ChatGPT, one that you've probably definitely heard of. Now, there's a few different things that you can do with this one that I think are going to be pretty helpful. So for one, it's going to be explaining code or kind of explaining different documentation. So in this example that I've done here, and I did this ahead of time just because sometimes ChatGPT is down for like server overload. So I kind of asked it to explain how to use a Material UI button within a React component. So this is something that you might use for Stack Overflow or something like that. And it says, sure, Material UI is a UI library, blah, blah, blah. And then it kind of shows me to install Material UI, and then I'll need to import the button within a component. And then it shows an example of how to use this component. And it even shows me that this is JSX code, which is kind of cool. And then yeah, it shows that like I could use an alert when I handle the onClick, although I don't generally like to use the alert because I think it's not great UX. But yeah, it kind of gives documentation on how to use this, and it links to the documentation right here. So for me, this is like a good replacement for Stack Overflow, and probably, potentially a better replacement compared to searching through different Stack Overflow posts and finding kind of exactly what I need. I could just be like, hey, could you show me how to use this component from this library within my React app? And it'll probably give you a good example of that. So I think that's one pretty dang good use case. And additional use cases are kind of writing just basic functions. So I asked it to write a JavaScript function that will title case a string, and it kind of goes through and writes a function to title case a string. So it gives examples of how to do it. You loop through the string, so on and so forth. And then it also kind of goes through testing it. So if you gave it the string, the quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog, it shows what this looks like when the string has been title cased. And it also explains it here. So I think it can also write different functions to where like it just saves mental overhead. Like, can I think through how to title case a string in JavaScript? Yeah. Could I also Stack Overflow it? Yeah. But is this potentially a quicker and more efficient way with less mental overhead to get to the same solution? I kind of think so. So I think this would be good. And then also I think you could use ChatGPT to write unit tests. So I could even say, hey, could you write a unit test for this title case string function within Jest? And I'm guessing it could probably do something pretty dang close to what I want. So I think that would be good. And then I also think it would be good for writing copy or placeholder text. So like I could ask ChatGPT, hey, if I have a modal that congratulates a user when they complete a certain task on my application, could you write some copy that gives them that congratulations and stuff like that? It might be able to kind of write some copy for you. That might be a terrible example, but I think you get what I mean. If you're having a hard time coming up with copy, it just saves kind of that mental overhead and might give a nice kind of template or placeholder for some of that copy you need as you're kind of developing different things. So the first one is ChatGPT and using it for those different things there. I kind of see it as somewhat of a replacement for Stack Overflow, and it might be good use cases for things that you would use Stack Overflow for. And the next is going to be GitHub Copilot, and they actually recently released GitHub Copilot X. So first, let's kind of watch this little overview that they give here for GitHub Copilot X. And it says basically your pair programmer is leveling up. It gives you context-aware conversation right within your code editor. It will find and fix bugs kind of within a certain file, which is pretty sweet. It can help you generate tests. So in this example, it shows it writing kind of some different unit tests and stuff like that. And then it also can facilitate learning. And in here, it shows that you can ask it questions and then it'll kind of give you answers to those questions all within your code editor, and it'll even give you the kind of citations to those. So here it shows like, okay, how to center a div and different things like that. So also it will help you with creating pull requests. It will write the descriptions for you for your pull requests, which is pretty sweet. So those are some different features that it has there. And just to kind of go through these a little bit more. So context-aware conversations within Copilot. You can ask GitHub Copilot to explain a piece of code for you right within your kind of text editor, which is cool. You can also get docs that are tailored to you. So you can ask it questions and then it will give those answers to those questions with the documentation all inline for you, which is pretty sweet. And then it can also help you with pull requests. So writing pull request descriptions for you. So like I often just don't write descriptions or stuff like that. And it could outline like what you actually did in the PR, especially if your commits aren't necessarily great and your commit messages are stuff like, you know, please work this time for the love of God. I'm tired of working on this problem like some of mine do. That would be definitely helpful for you. So I think that is cool. It can also help you with different commands within a CLI. So all this is stuff that I think would definitely be useful. I haven't used Copilot X a whole lot just because we don't really use it within our workflow at my kind of professional job, but it's definitely something that I want to get more familiar with and play around with quite a bit more. And then the last tool that I want to show you today is one you maybe haven't heard of, and that is SNYK. I think it's Sneak, maybe. And this is pretty interesting, in which it, as it says right on the homepage here, find and automatically fix vulnerabilities in your code, open source dependencies, containers, and infrastructure as code. So my understanding is that this tool is basically used to find security vulnerabilities within your code and to help you kind of fix those right in line with your code. And one thing that I thought was pretty cool was that it has this Sneak code and securing your code as it's written. And some other features here is it's integrated easily. That's what every package says, but it's not always the case. And then it continuously scans your code. So like as your code is written, it scans for these security vulnerabilities and then also gives you advice for fixing them. So fixing them with just a click. So if I click into this a little bit, it says kind of just what I mentioned. Developer focused real-time SAST. Secure your code as it's written with static application security testing. So I'm guessing this stands for static application security testing. Built by and for developers. So this looks pretty sweet. And I definitely think that code security and stuff like that is probably potentially going to become it's already important, but even more important as people are using more and more of these kind of auto-generated things like ChatGPT, Copilot, and stuff like that. So really cool tool. I think so many ways that I would just say I would recommend checking out and see if it would be helpful in your kind of development process. But those are 3 AI tools that I actually think that I would use and that I actually think are pretty cool. Now, there's tons and tons of different ones, and a lot of them kind of do similar things. And these are kind of the 3 that I see myself actually using. So hopefully this was helpful for you, and I will see you in that next one.